Okay, I turned on the camera this time because I have to describe my nose condition. I could start with that I am a 3-year-old that grew up, and my nose changed in size, every year of my growing years, and then it was deformed when I moved to a new neighborhood from my first original house. And somebody named Aaron Epstein and some of his friends made fun of my nose and gave me a shame disaster for about 5 years. And then I went to a nose surgery with Dr. Harvey Bock. And then I lived with a nose that I thought was okay for a while. And then what went wrong was, so the surgery was in 1995, and then my nose bleeding started in 2000 and... So let's say if it was 1995, 2005, 2015, that's 20 years. It was more time than that. 2017, so 22 years later, it started to bleed. I don't remember the exact year it started to bleed. It was after the year 2013. Yeah, maybe 2017. I'm just guessing. I don't know. I can tell you maybe where. Like it was bleeding in Rossiniel Hospital. It was bleeding in Valley Hospital. It was bleeding in this apartment, but it wasn't bleeding like in the other places I've been. How does it bleed? It has inside the nostril, each nostril, inside each nostril. I have to say it wrong because I'm not right here. I'm the overlord speaking. Inside of each nostril, there's a scab, and I'm molested by that because it's something wrong with myself in the heavens. So there's a scab inside, and from time to time, I have to pull out the scab, and then it causes the nose to bleed, and that varies how much it will bleed. And I do that every day, and how many times a day? I don't know how many times a day. It stopped for a while, I think, and I do have it now. It does happen now. So I reached into my nostril because I just want to know if it's clean, so for free and easy breathing. And I found there was like a scab that would partly come off, and so I want to pull it out on the camera because I want you to know that I'm not truly healthy anymore. Yeah, and in all the ways I'm not. I'm not done yet. I'll have to try again. I have to make note of Lacey. Okay, there's somebody female with brown hair named Lacey, maybe last name Peterson, but she was pregnant, was on the news, on television here in Nevada on Cox Cable. And then she was missing and possibly not alive about the pregnancy. But if she's pregnant and she's missing, how do we know why? Because somebody named Scott Peterson was, I don't know, put in jail, but was that, I don't know exactly how, because I'm not himself. And they can put it on the news as in they, like the jail, put it on the news. How did that happen? The jail called a local news van and said, come out to the jail and see Scott Peterson because he's in jail, and then see him at court. They told him told the news what time to be at the courtroom. Is that God making the news? I know, but if you were working for the news, would you move your news van from a station offices to maybe a courtroom that has a jail attached to it and look for Scott Peterson in there for him to, he can't testify because if he did it, he can't really testify. It's already God having recorded that he did that. He could threaten that he's going to do something, but he didn't threaten that he was going to kill Lacey Peterson pregnancy. He is in the threatening that she is pregnant in a photography, and she didn't appear in the courtroom the day of the cameras being in there. So I'm wondering, is this what the news is all about? Somebody made a phone call and reported that somebody was in jail. Does this person want to get out of jail? Maybe it's a valid reason for him to want to be out of the mix of that. There is somebody named Lacey who's female who's pregnant, and he doesn't want to think about it or talk about it because for certain ways he thinks about it or talks about it, but he doesn't have to prove it to anybody that he did or didn't do it. What he needs to do is be in the jail because he needs a death on himself, but he can't be pressured that he has to think a certain way in the jail. Who in the courtroom was telling Scott Peterson, you must this, you must that, you must not this, you must not that? And then what about if Lacey's not in the courtroom, what is he supposed to do? Because he's not the whole public that is making it that we don't know where Lacey Peterson is. We don't know where Lacey pregnancy is. We don't know if she's not in the courtroom saying, hi, I'm Lacey and I'm showing a pregnancy. How can anybody know where she is or even who she is to somebody else? So there's that endless frustration with the news. Maybe they are in too many questions, asking questions. And when you ask a question, no one can answer your question because it is itself a question. That means you're right to ask the question, but you can't stand there and wait for an answer and pressure somebody to answer you in their prejudice. That's not in prejudice with your question. Your question is directed at the creation of yourself and how much do you need to know, because what you really need is a deceasement in the threatening. That means whatever it is that made you have a question, you need to die out of your question and move on to something else because you're paying out your mind for a death for yourself. You're not paying out your mind so you can pay a cashier and buy something, clothes, and wear the clothes after that. For example, of all the things you could buy. Okay, this is what the crust of a scab looks like. That means there's something inside of my nose that's like red, I guess, red skin that this was covering before. And then I want to tell you I have a habit I don't want. So that's me saying, I want to tell you I have a habit I don't want, and I want you to have the problem that is. While I'm saying it to the camera, I'm going to put it on YouTube. I actually don't know who is ever going to see this. It could be 0 views, okay? So if it's 0 views, this is what I'm going to do for the creation of myself. I'm going to tell you I've been doing this with my nose being healthy, where I do it with the mucus, or I will do it with the scab since I don't know how many years ago, more than 10 years ago. I don't remember when the nose bleeding started, when these started to form in my nose. I think it's just because I'm old. Yeah. But I don't want this problem. I'm the Godhead. I'm none higher than he, deceased right here, and I don't want this problem. I don't want you to tell me this is disgusting or no, not to do this in front of you because it's unsightly. I want you to say, that's the Godhead, and it has that problem that is against myself. I have a lower life form of myself than I can afford. Stephen Howard Moser. Steve-O. This video is for you.